Welcome to today's episode, my friends. Many of you have been asking, is it Crimson Coral or Elder Faerie? And we're going to break it down here for you in today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your support. Many ways to do that through our affiliate links, memberships, supporting, subscribing, all that fun stuff. So thank you as always. And if you happen to have a question or comment throughout the way, let me know. I love to hear from you, and I love to see you in our amazing community Discord server, my friends, because we wouldn't have this channel if it wasn't for you, the community. That's right. So a couple things on this. Many players were asking me Crimson Coral or Elder Faerie. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly who. However, today's episode will be a breakdown of these two. That's right. So a couple things on this, though, just so that everyone understands. The main reason we're breaking this down is I recently did a meta video for what's going on here in March. And additionally, on top of that, we've given a lot of different videos and teams on how to crack it with PV. Okay. Now, with pure vanilla in there, we have seen the rise of Elder Faerie just like this, and Crimson Coral just like this in terms of that swap. Okay, lots of players are doing that. And again, if you got more curiosity on it, you can go over here, check out in the rankings and see players that are using Elder Faerie. We've also seen some Crimson Coral in here as well. However, that's the main reason and why for today's video, my friends. Okay, so a couple things on that. Oop, I gotta go all the way back to battles. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a deeper dive on these two cookies first, and then we'll come back to the team mechanics and those things. Okay, so that's the why Crimson Coral or Elder Faerie. And for some additional color, this is the first time that we've seen this in a while, in particular for our meta. Okay, so here we go as we look at Elder Faerie first. So a couple things is, I think it's always important to make sure you take a look at the movesets, my friends. Yes, so giving you a nice refresher here. When it comes to Guardian's Valor here, we do have a 12-second cooldown. Elder Faerie cookie strikes down with a sword containing prism energy to deal damage, taunt enemies, and purify debuffs on himself. While upon using his skill, the energy in the sword causes an explosion, dealing more damage, applying injury, and reducing the amount of healing enemies receive. He shields his allies with an HP shield proportional to his ally cookie's max HP, and the shield capacity increases with more buffs applied on Elder Faerie cookie. Elder Faerie cookie grants a prism shard and applies a damage resist buff for himself. White Lily cookie and a cookie with the highest attack, or two cookies with the highest attack if White cookie is not in the team. If Elder Faerie cookie has the Biscuit HP upgrade, he can apply prism shards to more allies. Using a prism shard charge will heal the target's HP for a certain amount of time. Unlike other cookies, White Lily cookie will gain 2 prism shards. Elder Faerie's damage resist will increase when affected by a debuff. While Elder Faerie cookie is using his skill, he will briefly become resistant to interrupting effects. So here we go. We got Guardian's Valor Sword damage there. We got Guardian's Valor Explosion there. We got injury, max HP, healing, taunt, HP shield as well. We got prism shard targets, healing, damage resist, and the passive damage resist. Okay, not going to break that all down for you, but those are all the key pieces to understand with Elder Faerie. Now, if you need more details, you can absolutely check out our toppings and biscuit guides here on the channel. All right, so that is Elder Faerie. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Crimson Coral here. Okay, so a couple things on Crimson. Ooh, wrong one. A couple things on Crimson Coral here. We got Somber Affection here. We do have the 12-second cooldown as well. Crimson Coral cookie sisters will lend their power to the Crimson Spear, piercing enemies and dealing damage. Afterwards, Crimson Coral cookie will cast an HP shield to the 2 allies with the highest attack, excluding herself, equal to a portion of her water type skill damage. If Crimson Coral cookie is the only cookie in the front line, she and her allies will gain the coral armor buff. Additionally, her coral armor size and weight will reduce the effect of knockback and flying. When Crimson Coral cookie is using her skill, she is not affected by attack speed changes and will become resistant to interrupting effects. Here we got the single hit at 275, the wave damage at almost a little over 500, the HP shields equal to 85% of total skill damage for 5 seconds. Capacity is capped at 50% of target's max HP. Damage resist right there. When alone, the front line starts with that HP shield. Coral Armor reflects 30% of incoming damage and damage resist. Coral Armor ally max HP plus 15%, resistance to defense reduction there, damage resistance there, crit resistance, and curse protection removes there as well. Okay, so there are some key differences between these two as you kind of line these up and what you see. Okay, so a couple things here. Let's go ahead and get back now because they are fairly different, but yet also at the same time, didn't mean to hit that one. Also directional in terms of some nice swaps. Okay, so the first thing that I think is very, very important when it comes to these pieces, and we talk about some of these cookies, in particular, these two again. One thing that you do get an advantage of when we do go to our gear, we can get access to these resonant toppings. So don't forget that. What does that mean? That means that you're going to have a little bit better of a substat there, a little bit more of an advantage from that perspective in gaining some of those bonus effects. So ultimately, tweaking that can be an advantage for Crimson Coral, my friends. Okay. So the other things that are interesting about Crimson Coral there is you do get those added defense markers and added resistance and added pieces for that survivability when you only had this one in the front line by itself, which is what we're running when we think about it from this perspective with these two. Okay, which is really, really valuable for that survivability. That's another piece that's a little bit different. Okay. On the flip side, though, what do we have with Elder Faerie? Elder Faerie also has the shields. However, Elder Faerie also heals. So in this case, where you might be running Elder Faerie is because you have 3 attackers, getting that additional extra little bit of a healing support can make a big difference potentially in some of that survivability. Instead of one massive nuking heal, you get some healing over time there with Elder Faerie versus having the Crimson Coral getting high debuff, high defense, high resist, those kinds of things, now removing other things like curse, which Elder Faerie, if we go back and look at, didn't have that curse protection there. Okay, so we have a lot lower defense, damage resist. We do have that healing, like I said. The prism shards are very nice as well, and something that's a little bit different. Now, in terms of that attack, though, we do have that Elder Sword, max HP, Explosion, again, max HP, Injury on top of that as well. Then we also have that Taunt, which gives some additional focus. When we swap over to Crimson, we don't necessarily have those same things. We do have a little bit more of a bigger hit there with that single wave damage, C wave damage, again, the single hit and attack in terms of these pieces, okay? So those are a couple of different pointers between these two cookies in particular that you can consider as you're building out your team. The other things to think about, again, is Elder Faerie's got some crowd control. It's got the self-sustain and that AoE utility, and Crimson Coral has massive defense support. It can interrupt enemies and synergize with many other comps as well. Now, some of those trade-offs, though, for Elder Faerie is a little bit more of a hybrid control tank, reliant on sometimes at that timing and a little less team support than Crimson Coral because of some of that damage resist stuff that we talked about. However, you do have the healing. Now, on the Crimson Coral side, some of those trade-offs are lower personal damage, less self-sustained than Elder Faerie, essentially no healing, just like we did on the Elder Faerie side, and a little bit less effective potentially on solo. Her strength shines more when she's boosting the team, not necessarily as a lone defender, as an example. Okay, so those are all the key pieces here to consider for Elder Faerie and Crimson Coral in terms of our breakdown here in Kingdom Arena right now and some of the meta pieces. Many of you have been asking, which is why we pulled together today's episode for you, taking a look at Elder Faerie and Crimson Coral to help you make the best decision for yourself. Now, generally, if they aren't even in terms of level like mine or ascended, those kinds of things, probably a little bit more of an even keel. However, most likely what's going to happen is whichever one you have higher in promotion or ascension is the one that you're probably going to use. So I'll leave you with that final tip and trick. And don't forget, Crimson Coral does get some of those radiant resonant toppings there that we saw as well. All right, my friends, that's everything that you need to know about today's episode. Is it Crimson Coral or Elder Faerie? Thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. If you still got a question, if you got a comment, let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to see you in our amazing community and Discord server, my friends. Truly, I do love it. And don't forget, again, thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate your support. Thank you for the likes and the subs as we continue to grow such an amazing community. So many ways to support through a membership, through our affiliate links, all those kinds of things. There's something for everyone. And don't forget my socials. With that, we'll see you again soon. Until next time, my friends, keep on running.